really think there's someone for everyone.
Oh, we found each other.
Yeah, but were we meant to be?
How can you doubt? Of course we were. Well, eventually.
Anyway, it's not you or me, but it's the subject of this week's book.
Hi, I'm Graeme Simsion. I'm the author of The Rosie Project.
This was shout out loud, laughing funny, I thought.
You laughed all the time.
I was just so amused by it. I just love this concept of somebody who's got Asperger's syndrome quite badly and doesn't realise it.
Yeah.
Doesn't understand why the world isn't working. Just doesn't understand why he never goes out on a second date. These dates always end in disaster. I mean, he recognises that happens, but he doesn't know it's because he's got Asperger's and he says all the wrong things. I mean, he's like people with Asperger's are. He's brutally truthful. He can't help himself but to tell people, like, for example, oh, you've got a terrible spot today, haven't you? Or, oh, your hair's looking a mess. He can't help it. He thinks that that's how we should all be. But he can't connect the fact that that's what he says and does with the fact that girls don't want to go out with him again, because he's just awful going out on dates. But, my God, it was funny. I mean, I don't think I've read... Obviously, there was Dog in the Night Time, which was interesting about Asperger's, but I don't think it was funny. This guy's turned it into a good joke, actually.
And do you think that people who actually have Asperger's themselves would find it funny?
I think they'd be hugely reassured because the character is very lovable. He's a lovable character. He's funny without meaning to be funny, and he's earnest. This expedition that he goes on to find the perfect woman for him, and of course, Rosie, who he doesn't realise he's falling in love with, is exactly wrong for him, and that's why she's right for him. She represents all the things that he hates about women: smoking, swearing. She's punk, but she's beautiful, and she's into him, and he can't even see that. He can't even see that she's falling for him. It's a lovely romance, really. It's a comedy romance, I suppose. It would make a great film.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. It's lovely.
Well, that's what we think of the Rosie Project. What do you think?
Enjoying the show? Why not be part of it? And tell us what you're reading on Facebook/Richard and Judy Book Club.
I'm Ellen Petts. The book I'm reading at the moment is the last one in the trilogy by the fantastic author that was Steve Larsen. The trilogy is absolutely amazing. The second book, which I read intensively over a holiday in about 3 days, non-stop, 24 hours, was a total page turner. I couldn't get rid of that book. I held it constantly during those 3 days. The third book, which I'm trying to read, during day-to-day work, is hard, but it's a fantastic book. I love that trilogy. And he's greatly missed by his readers. Why there's not going to be a fourth book, it's so upsetting.
Hi, my name's Maz De Silva. A recent book I've read and enjoyed was The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry by Rachel Joyce. I enjoyed it because it was quite charming and actually quite traumatic by the end of it. And I quite like the fact that I didn't quite know where I was going. And I quite like the character. The characters are amazing in it. I think how they started and then progressed at that time in their lives, and I like the way the story unfurled itself. That was quite interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I think I would totally recommend it to somebody else because I think it was an unusual book, and I think something you'd literally fall in love with.
My name's Debbie. I'm from Penturk. The book I really love, which I've read 4 times and I've cried each time, is called The Book Thief. And it's an amazing book. I think it's amazing because of the perspective it's written from, because it's actually written by Death in World War II.
Richard and Judy, exclusive to WHSmith.
My final non-internet option was speed dating, an approach I had not previously tried. The venue was a function room in a hotel. At my insistence, the convener disclosed the actual start time, and I waited in the bar to avoid aimless interaction until then.
As always, we had more than a few questions to put to the author, Graeme Simsion.
Question, why do I write? And it certainly doesn't have a simple answer. I have always written, although most of it has been non-fiction, so I guess the motivation there was to share my ideas, and that's still to some degree a motivation when I'm writing fiction. I've got ideas, views of the world that I like to think are worth sharing with other people. I enjoy telling stories. I've always enjoyed whether it's just telling a joke in a convivial company, or whether it's when I was running seminars in information technology. If you're teaching database design for 4 days, then you better have some anecdotes to liven it up or you're going to lose your audience. And I always enjoyed that part of it, being a performer. Also, I write for myself. I really enjoy the process of creativity, of finding something within myself, a story that I perhaps didn't know was in there, the ability to write something better than I might have expected, at least after the 7th or 8th edit. My writing process, I guess, has been influenced by my background in information technology, in management, where always you took a structured approach. You planned before you actually started on the task. And I know that writers divide themselves sometimes into planners and pantsers, the latter being the people who write by the seat of their pants and let the story take them where it will. I'm certainly not that type of writer. I'm somebody who wants to have a very, very clear outline before he starts. I'm opportunistic, so I write when I can. For a long time I had to fit writing in around a demanding day job, and sometimes it just wasn't possible to do any writing at all on a day. And at other times I might have 2 or 3 days, typically a weekend, free for writing. So I don't have a regular time of day to write. I do not write every day, but I do try to do something to do with writing every day. I might make notes about what I'm trying to do. I might just walk around thinking about how I'm going to tackle a particular scene or piece of dialogue. When I returned, I took the last remaining seat at a long table opposite a person labelled Francis, age approximately 50, body mass index approximately 28, not conventionally attractive. The convener rang a bell and my 3 minutes with Francis commenced. I pulled out my questionnaire and scribbled a name on it. There was no time for subtlety under these circumstances. I've sequenced the questions for maximum speed of elimination, I explained. I believe I can eliminate most women in less than 40 seconds. Then you can choose a topic of discussion for the remaining time. But then it won't matter, said Francis. I'll have been eliminated. Only as a potential partner. We may still be able to have an interesting discussion. But I'll have been eliminated. I nodded. Do you smoke? Occasionally, she said. I put the questionnaire away. The idea for the Rosie Project came, I guess, because I know that writing comes out of character, that good stories tend to be driven from character. And I worked for a long time in information technology with some breaks in academe, where I met a lot of socially challenged people who were nevertheless very good and interesting men and women, but who often faced real challenges in finding a partner. And I thought that would be a great setup for a story, that I'd write about someone who was pretty geeky and their challenges in finding a life partner and sort of living in the dating world. There's a second part to the Rosie Project, which is about Rosie's search for her biological father by surreptitious DNA testing. That was an idea that I came up with for my wife, who's also a writer, and she in fact toyed around with it as a book before I took it back from her and used it as the engine behind the Rosie Project when I decided to rewrite the plot. Advice about writing, I guess the two most important things I would say about writing are that good writing is rewriting. I know that's a cliche, but you can never expect to write perfectly first time. And as someone who studied creativity, I would say your creativity will take you to a certain point from zero. But then you can apply all your creative resources to take you from zero to the next step up, and then do it again and again and again. And the only limitation will ultimately be the quality of the idea you came up with in the first place, what its limits are, and how well you can judge what you've written. And that latter thing leads me to my second piece of advice, which is get help. And for me, that means being part of a writers group. It means that I undertook formal studies in writing. I continue to read a lot on it. But I think the idea that the author works alone in a garret until they produce the masterpiece, well, it might work for some, but it doesn't work for me. I need that feedback, and I think most writers need that feedback.
What have you got there, Jude?
Well, I liked so much the way the character Don pulled together a questionnaire to save himself time that I've done one of my own.
I'm not sure I like where this is going.
It's easy. It's multiple choice. Question 1. How important is it to buy spontaneous presents for your wife?
OK, I see where we're going on this. Judy, do you fancy a shopping trip and maybe a lovely romantic meal for two while we're out?
Don't mind if I do. I'll get my bag.
And I'll get my wallet.
Richard and Judy, exclusive to WHSmith. The gift that just keeps on giving.